How you doing, guys? I wanted to expound on an idea that's surfaced in a couple videos that I've made recently, and I know you guys don't mind partaking of my genius, so I figured I'd make another video here and kind of explain a little more what I was getting at in a couple of these videos. I made a video about the most important thing you should stockpile, which would be money, and about the two things you should prepare for. Both of those contain the theme that you shouldn't ignore all the more likely things that happen just to prepare for the things that are severe. And there is a psychological bias that some people identified called the apex fallacy, where you judge an entire group based on the behavior or the attributes of their most visible members. And an example of this may be if someone says, like, oh, actors make a lot of money, where that's not really true at all. It's just the ones that you know of and hear about all the time are the ones making money, but it's only a very small minority that are actually making any kind of money. And the reality for the majority of actors, or people who would call themselves actors, is the exact opposite. They don't make very much at all. They may not make anything at all. They usually have other jobs, other side jobs and stuff like that. So I'm not interested in psychology right now, but there is a similar mindset that can take place when dealing with preparedness, and I want to call that the outlier fallacy. And what this is basing your behavior on the most unlikely but extreme examples of things in that category. And to give you an example of what I mean, or just to explain it a little better, if we have a chart here where you have things that on this end, on the horizontal axis, is the how they impact your life in any meaningful way. What was in focus there? So on the left here we have no impact at all. If something happens to you today and it doesn't really change the course of events, if someone came back in time and she did that to you and nothing would change, it would go right here. If it has a huge impact on your life, possibly even killing you, or something that drastically alters your path, the life path that you're on, or your health or something like that, it goes on this end. And so if we were to plot everything, every instance, every action that happens to you throughout the course of your life, what would it look like on this chart? Well, it would probably look like this, where almost all the things that happen to you on a day-to-day basis, whether the person hits his brakes 3 seconds, in front of you, or 2 seconds, whether the guy in front of you orders a coffee or a Mountain Dew, whether you leave work at 3:30 or 3:45, most of that has no impact to very little impact. Let's say in the middle is very little impact. So the vast majority of things that could happen to you, of anything that could happen to you, is really not going to impact you that severely. And of course there are things that can impact you very severely, even drastically, but they're not that common, and they're on this end of the scale here, and it really would taper off, and you'd have the most extreme events that impact you hugely are just not that, just don't happen that often. So there's just not that many. This would be a huge cluster of events, and then the major ones would be out here, the ones that really impact you a lot. But as preppers, we tend to spend all of our effort dealing with these. So when they do, if they do happen, we're usually pretty well prepared for it, which is a good thing. But these things in the meantime are happening. They're happening all the time. So obviously this stuff doesn't have any impact, so you can ignore that. But there's a lot in this zone that has a moderate impact on your life. A lot of it's going to be negative, some of it's positive, but a lot of it's going to be negative. So we need to spend a lot more time preparing for this stuff in this, like the financial things like I talked about before, day-to-day type stuff, not just road warrior, not just economic collapse, not just crazy shit that is not very likely to happen. Even though we should prepare for that stuff, because if it does happen, it's severe. But these things are probably going to happen. These things are probably not. They may, but they're probably not going to happen. These things probably are going to happen at some point. In fact, a lot of your life is going to, the experiences that you have during your life are going to fall in the middle here, where it could moderately impact your life for better or worse. And you want to make sure that's more towards the better, or at least diminish the negative impact that these events can have on your life. So when you're looking at something, just another way to think about it when you're looking at preparedness and stuff like that, don't just focus on the outliers, because they're outliers for a reason. Do what you need to do to make sure that you're prepared for catastrophic events, but spend your time focusing on stuff that is probably going to happen to you, and be prepared for that. So I hope that made the past couple videos make a little bit more sense, give you my thought process before I'm coming out with those. If you guys have any ideas, put them in the comments, and subscribe. I appreciate it, guys. Peace out.